Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvata Shatake Sharnyatrambike Gauri Narayani Namostute Shristi Stiti Vinashanam Shakti Bhuti Sanatani Gunashrayi Gunemayi Narayani Namostute Sarva Swarupe Sarveshe Sarva Shakti Samanvite Vaijastra Hino Devi Durge Devi Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapalini Durga Khyama Shivedatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Jaya Narayani Namostute Jaya Narayani Namostute Jaya Narayani Namostute Om Prakritim Paramam Abhayam Varadam Nararupadaram Janatapaharam Sharnagata Sevakatoshakaram Pranamami Param Jananim Jagatam Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. O Mother Supreme in human form, granter of boons and of bliss, distress of our souls, remove us thou, and give us thus contentment and peace. Thy children who offer all to thee, do thou makest them content and free. O great Mother of the worlds, be our salutations ever unto thee. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishovahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us, and may Brahman sustain us, and may Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings, and may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Salutations to all beings, and preeminently those who have gathered here for our third class on meeting Mother Kali. We've determined there are going to be 6 classes in this series, so this will take us up to SRV's India pilgrimage, which is going to happen in mid-December. We're going to India for 3 weeks, a group of us. I like to take groups of 10, 12 people once a year, once every couple of years to those places that are hallowed by the footfalls of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Sri Sharda Devi, Swami Vivekananda and the direct disciples, and the 5 million strong devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, therefore of Mother Kali, who exist in the world now. And we are in good brotherhood and sisterhood when we are in an extended Sangha family like that. Even though we're not closely knit as far as our physical locations, even here on the Big Island, it's not called the Big Island for nothing. Those of us who are involved here in this outpost in the middle of the Pacific on the most remote mass of land anywhere in the world, maybe along with Easter Island, surrounded by Ganga Pacifica, as we like to call her, on all sides for several thousand miles. We too have to travel long distances to meet with each other on Sunday. And therefore, time plays a factor. But this class, this third class on meeting Mother Kali, hopefully we can pick up right where we left off. That is, as if no time has passed whatsoever since we rose from our asana, from our seat, and went about our week. And now we find ourselves back here in our seat again as if nothing happened, because actually nothing did. All actions taking place in nature, but it doesn't take place in the soul. And Sri Krishna I'm quoting him out of the Bhagavad Gita, when he's telling Arjuna on the battlefield, see, all action takes place only in nature. It doesn't take place in you. You're stable, you're stationary, you're unmoving, you're unchanging, you're immutable. Everything else moves around you. That is your true nature, your self, your Atman, as we call it, or your Buddha nature, if you prefer that over the word self, which admittedly has some problems to it. But actually, if you bring up the word self in regard to Divine Mother teachings, then you find out there's an important distinction that all seekers of truth have to make. Separating the wheat from the chaff is what we're used to hearing, how we're used to hearing it expressed. And that means we must make a separation between the individualized self called the ego, or ahamkara in Sanskrit, and that ultimate self called Atman or Paramatman. That's one necessary separation, and if it doesn't sound like non-duality to you, it actually helps you to realize non-duality better, because what you're separating out is unreal. When we say the world is unreal and we talk about emptiness, shunyata in Buddhism, or neti neti in Vedanta, not this, not this. It's a negation approach that spiritual aspirants are used to hearing in the Indian Dharma, particularly. It exists somewhat in other religions, but not so much as in the Indian Dharma, where they're looking towards ultimate reality with a single eye all the time. In every religion and philosophy, every darshana that India has proposed, except maybe for one materialistic one, which they allow to exist just for a variety. Charvaka, it's called, materialistic philosophy in India, but it's in a very great minority, surrounded by these others like yoga and Vedanta and Tantra and Buddhism and Sikhism and Jainism and Samkhya and Shaktism and Shaivism, and you can go on with these wonderful ways or pathways of clear seeing in India, and find out that they vibrate or rotate around one very common pole of existence. And so when you're practicing a spiritual discrimination that Divine Mother is encouraging you to do all the time in every teaching she gives in the Dharma, then you're making that distinction that's important, and you're just doing away with what is unnecessary and what is ultimately changing and unreal, that which is vexing you and causing you problems, so that you can come to rest in that peace that passes all understanding, and never move from there again, no matter how nature makes it look otherwise, or how Maya makes it look otherwise. You know that the fact of existence is that everything is centered in your own self. All gods and goddesses are within you, all the deities are within you, the ancestors are within you, and the Atman also, in a sense, within you. You'd probably call that neither within nor without, if you were taking the non-dual approach, but nonetheless transcendent yet immanent, as the Upanishads call it. It's beyond name and form, yet there it is, the foundation of name and form. And you have to search for words in English and other languages when you translate Vedanta from Sanskrit into these various languages and alphabets, of which all belong to Divine Mother. This is sort of where we left off last week, when we were talking about how meeting Mother Kali is as simple a matter as courting a word. The word would probably be the best word to court, Om, A-U-M, because we know that means everything from Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva to A-U-M, to waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It covers the whole gamut of duality, non-duality, and qualified non-dualism, permeating everything, and just like she does. So her word is the best station through which to understand her. But other words too are very important. Words of love and devotion, like the poet Ram Prasad singing, Where did you get such beautiful names, O Mother? Kali, Durga, Tara. These are just little two-syllable words, but yet they carry so much power with them, and they have so much impact on the sensitive soul who is attuning him or herself to these teachings of truth, the like of which they have never heard until they hear it coming from the Guru's mouth again in any given lifetime. They never heard it from their family, they never heard it from their ancestors, never heard it from society or other ilk, like politicians. There's so much talk about politics right now. One of my students wrote me an email last week, and I wrote back and said, well, we've just inaugurated the new president. I wrote back, thousands and thousands of people are thinking about politics and everything, but I'm thinking only about Mother. And all the way through the election and through every election in my life, I've thought about only nothing but Mother, you see. And that's how you grant unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and how you take unto yourself what is the Lord's. You don't get fooled by Maya, as so many millions of souls have been and are being fooled. Great souls like Lord Buddha came to break the bonds that we have with our ancestors. Not so that we could desert them, so that we could transcend the mess that they're in, karmically speaking, and come back and help them from a realized station of higher consciousness. Here in Hawaii, in 6 or 8 weeks now, we're going to be giving a retreat called Precipitous Ascent into Higher Awareness. How's that for a title to gather around as devotees of the Divine Mother and the Lord, Blessed Lord of the universe. Because it bespeaks of Himalayan-like or even Hawaiian-like mountain tops and elevations that you have to exert to get to, and you have to acclimatize along the way. You make this precipitous ascent into your own higher awareness, and there are certainly people who like to hang out on the plains and the deserts and the lowlands and the marshes and and cities, where all the karmas are happening, where they're all coming together with immense ramifications for negativity and suffering and delusion. But occasionally some souls want to depart that. They want to make this climb, spiritual climb, inward. It's an ascent, but it's an inward ascension. The inward ascension is the name of one of the first musical pieces I ever composed back in my 20s. What am I going to call this? So I came up with this name, Inward Ascension. Later on I was happy I did, because I've seen many people, probably influenced by Western religion, always pointing up when they want to indicate their devotion to God. They always look up and point up, and so I look up with them and I see the ceiling or the dome of some coliseum, right? Why does he want us to look up there? It's like my second grade teacher, was it second or third? I think my third grade teacher, Mrs. Fuller, I still remember her name. And Mr. Brandon was the fourth grade teacher, because he's the one that hit me on the hand with a ruler, so I remember that. He printed himself into my mind. But Mrs. Fuller put a sign up on her classroom, said, "Why are you looking up here for?" So we'd look up at that sign, as third graders. There's a sign up there that says, "Why are you looking up here?" So stay focused, stay in full attention upon what truly matters, and so forth. So those are the kinds of things it reminds me of when people point upwards. But really, some other people go, like this, is to indicate, like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, all of those who want to realize God in this age, Kali Yuga, will come here. And he hit his own heart with his hand like that. He indicated his own heart. So I think that's a double teaching. I think it means they'll come to the Master, the great Master Sri Ramakrishna, through their heart and into his heart. And that's if they have a special penchant for God with form. Those who do not have that kind of attraction to God with form will also come through the heart to the third eye and to higher elevations, as we were talking about last week. So that's why I say we can pick it up right where we left off with the word. And some of these words like Sahasrara, crown chakra, Agya, third eye chakra, Vishuddha, throat chakra, and Hridaya or Anahata, they call it, heart chakra. And these four are where the great souls have concourse with all the time. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, I used to run a boat race all the time between this chakra and this chakra. It was like he saw boat races out on the Ganga, you see. And you say, well, that's sort of like, Ganga is like a great nadi, like the Sushumna, you see. I mean, you don't find words like this in English, so you have to, if you visit a foreign country, you learn a foreign language, you get more out of your trip. So if you want to visit the land of Vedanta, you have to learn a little Sanskrit, and you'll find that there's no equivalent for the ideas that are carried by words in Sanskrit here in America or in Europe. No equivalent. They never came across the idea of subtle nadis running, hundreds and thousands of subtle nerves inside of your gross nerves, because they didn't have words for it. And since they didn't have words for it, they didn't have people who contemplated those words. And since they didn't contemplate those words, they didn't find mother wisdom hidden in words. And so we say when we go inside to meditate, we do so either on a form or on a word, a sound or a form. It's called light and sound, right? Light and sound. Light is jyoti, sound is shabda. And these are two major pathways. Usually the people who are more visionary would follow the path of light. And people who are more mystical would probably follow the path of sound. So whatever the case may be, there's this vibration that's connected with both of them. So when you have words like Sushumna, and Sri Ramakrishna looks out in the river and says, well, that's just like boat race running along a river. It's just like my consciousness running along an inner channel to a destination. And when I get there, I win, you see. I won the boat race. And when I've become a master now, a master of all races and all destinations, and I can then come back down to the heart. And he called that heart, the Anahata Chakra, the living room of God, see, the parlor. The Bengali word, you'd have to translate it into something like living room or parlor or den. So that's where I can meet with the devotees of the Lord, he said. So when there are many implications to a saying like that, simple saying of his like that, because he used to say, further you go towards Brahman, the further away you go from the world and from people. So it might not be a popular notion, but if you're courting non-duality or Advaita Vedanta, you're going to start to see forms disappear. Every great seer has told you this, and have given names to states of consciousness called samadhis, through which certain things begin to dissolve. And the most wonderful insight and realization behind this dissolution is that you're still present. My teacher used to say, you can go on discriminating away this and that, trying to find God, but you can never discriminate away the one who's doing the discriminating. So when you're emptying everything out, and you're dissolving, or you're practicing the art of shunyata, emptiness, which beings who are courting these higher levels of consciousness, indicated by these physical locations, symbolized by these, you're not in the body. You see, it's like pointing up. No, God's not up there. You say the Anahata Chakra is here and so forth. But they're not in the body. You just point there. You have to know that it's another dimension inside of you. So those beings who are practicing that art, they're making this inward ascension. And people used to come, for instance, to Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi's divine consort and my guru's guru, and look at her. And wow, she just looks like a plain, ordinary village woman. She's not wearing anything special. She's got a white sari on, red border, no jewelry to speak of. She just looks like an ordinary woman. And she would tell them, well, what did you expect, that I grew 2 horns? When you came to see me, did you expect to see me with 2 horns, you see? In other words, if somebody has a spiritual transformation, it's all inside. You don't see it outside. And Krishna says that in the Uddhava Gita too, when Arjuna asks him, how does a wise person, illumined person sit? How do they drink? How do they eat? How do they come? How do they go? And pretty much the answer is like everyone else, outwardly. But inwardly they have this access to these subtle centers of consciousness through subtle nerve passageways. And you have them too in deep sleep tonight and in dream, but you probably haven't brought the light and the sound and the meaning together in them yet, fully. See, you do when you have an insight. Like again, an email wrote to me just the other day, I'm having light. It was in a letter actually sent from a prison by an inmate student of mine who said, I continue to have these, because of your teachings, I continue to have these amazing experiences right here in prison. Every night I just leave the prison. I go outside these walls. This isn't an unusual thing to hear from people in prison. There are a lot of very good souls there whose crimes were, either they didn't commit them or they did so in a unfortunate set of circumstances, as you say. But basically they're having these inner experiences because they've been made to sit still. They're in one place. They don't have distractions. And they have no other alternative but to find a path and buckle down to it. The rest of us out here, who can say that? Let's see. There's so many distractions, so many places to go, so many things to do, many, many, many. But there is nothing called the many. There's only something called the one. And you can't even call that the one without getting flack from the seers. They say catching some scolding from the sages and so forth. No, it's not one. It's not two. You can't call it one, because then that limits it, you see. They're very careful about it, about how you refer to it, or how you infer it, how you prove it. Of course, then, if you actually meet Mother Kali face to face, which to me indicates something right about here, in this Agya Chakra, whereas here you're still centered in the Dharma and her teachings. See, you're beginning to feel her much more intensely than at other centers, no doubt, but at these higher centers, and I don't mean to make this a class on Kundalini Yoga, but it has come up in terms of higher consciousness and precipitous ascent, and where you're going to have to vibrate to, you see, to meet her. It's like leavened bread, will rise over time. You have to sort of add some yeast there into your mix, you see, your mental mix, and watch it go off and start rising. You're going to have to raise your consciousness to these higher centers. Nobody has ever seen God with these physical eyes. That's John reported that Christ told him that. See, no man has seen God with these eyes. So you're not going to see what you're looking for here in the land of gross name and form. You're going to get a little bit better inkling of it in the lands of dream. But if your dreams are still foggy with ignorance and delusion, that is, if they mirror your waking state, then you're probably not going to see him there either. Him, her, it, the light. Another email came in, I've said it before, how do I make my dream state lucid? And I wrote back, said, that's easy, make your waking state lucid. Because you're waiting for a long time for these really beautiful dreams to come, where you've got all this pleasure and all these attainments, and you're in a state of subtle bliss and so forth, but it doesn't happen very often, and that's why, because your silver cord is still fastened strong to the body, and to desire, and to reincarnation, desire for birth, and your ancestors. And these are the very tethers that the seers are coming along to try and help you snap. There's a beautiful song in our tradition, Ramakrishna Vedanta tradition. It's titled, and Swami Vivekananda wrote it for his great master, Sri Ramakrishna, O Snapper of this world's change. So, as Holy Mother said, the men and women that have come to the Master and I have not come here for fun. They know how fortunate they are to have gotten a human body. So they come here to sharpen the tools that are going to help them make this precipitous ascent into higher awareness as if it were coming home, which is the name of the first book our founder here of SRV Associations. The experience of enlightenment in various sacred traditions, coming home. See? Coming home to know that all these are doorways into the one reality, which is your true nature. And when doubt begins to die, when you make doubt doubt itself, and you make fear afraid of itself, and you put death in its own grave, as my teacher used to say, then you'll realize this more and more. That realization is called samadhi, and that samadhi will put you at the peak of precipitous awareness, at the peak of that, at the height of that journey. And you will not want to come down. The view is too beautiful. So all of this, again, is my usual preamble to picking up where we left off, as if no time has passed. We've not seen each other for a week. I know there are people watching live streaming. We welcome them. Some of my students and people around are looking, making a habit of joining us on Sunday to receive this transmission of the Dharma, which is Divine Mother's own gift to us. You might call it in this day and age a rather veiled gift, because not many people are interested in it. They're distracted by other things, by unreal things, Vedanta would say, by empty things, Buddhism would say. And by regaining their focus and their concentration on what's true and what's real and what's essential, what's beneficial, which are words out of an Upanishadic chant. You are what's true, what is real, and what is beneficial. Om apyantu mamangani vak pranaschakshu shrotramatrabalam indriyani cha sarvani. Beautiful Sanskrit words that if you put the meaning to them and assign a meaning to them, then you'll know what's real, what's true, and what's beneficial. And you'll separate that wheat from this chaff of the non-essential, the non-beneficial, and worse. It's one thing not to be getting any nutrition out of the food of your life. It's another thing to get sick from it. See? I mean, eventually, if you don't get nutrition, you will get sick, but you can get sick right away by imbibing the poison of relativity, and not having some sort of filter there that can, some sort of immune system, spiritually speaking, or some sort of sadhana working for you that will detox mind, intellect, ego, and soul, and place you back at her feet, just like a kitten or a monkey. See, Sri Ramakrishna said two kinds of devotees, kitten and monkey. Kitten is just mews wherever the mother cat puts it, just mews and waits for the cat to come back. The monkey clings to his mother and won't let it go. See? So what kind of devotee are you in terms of your love for the Divine Mother of the universe? And which one is higher and better? I'm not going to venture an opinion, because both have arrived at the feet of Mother Kali. So, to reiterate, we've been doing this through song, we've been doing this through words, and we've been doing this through her Dharma, through her Dharma philosophy. And last week I bring this chart. We looked at some of this chart, didn't finish it all, and I will finish it up, but we repeat one chart we had by showing you this chart. And it's you've seen it in another form. That is, last week you saw it I'm sorry if the live stream version isn't there for you. This was an afterthought that I brought later on. But you can see that you've seen this in another form, the 4 types of awakening, 4 types of Divine Mother reality, that is. If you remember, there was Kriyavati, Varnamai, Kalatma, and Vedamai. These were on another list in the chart we showed last week. Some of you have come to your first class today, so it won't be a repeat for you. But basically you can see that when you're working at the physical level, that is the physical plane of existence, and you're trying to refine your awareness to be able to rise beyond gross things, beyond mundane considerations, beyond superficiality, that you'll have an aspect of Mother come forward to you. You may not know her, you may not know her name, you may not even recognize her presence, but she's working, and a lot of people feel that without knowing it. It's an intuitive level of things for people who are rising out of attachment to body, prana, that level of existence. It's the first 3 chakras, see, that are being worked, purified by her presence. You have to invite her in. I would say that is the kitten devotee would invite her. Mew, mew, please, where are you? I'm here. It's funny because the last 3 or 4 days we've had a new brood of sheep born in our back behind our house on the volcano slopes. And those little sheep are bleating. If they're even 12 feet away from their mother, they bleat. Where are you? Where are you? Because they can't see very well yet. So they're always calling for their mother and back. So I'm always reminded of this, that there's a level of soul that is crying out for Mother reality. And she is there and she will come, but you have to learn how to recognize her and see her movements inside of you and welcome her. We call it invoking her every day. You get up in the morning and you invoke her with words that she'll understand. It could be in English. Sanskrit would be good too, or both, if you're following the tradition, see. But it's an invocation that you give. You're invoking the presence of Divine Mother inside of you. So the first aspect of Mother will come along, that is Mother Kali, would be Kriyavati. She's working on the level of Kriya, as it were, spontaneous motions, of prana, of actions. And she'll have you take up a natural practice, as it were, that calms the mind and begins to grant you detachment. This is what you need. As Holy Mother said, you need peace of mind first and foremost. Nothing can be gained without peace of mind. Sri Sharda Devi has said this. Nothing of any substance or merit can be gained without peace of mind. So you really are trying to return to an equanimous state of mind. Equanimous. And that equanimity will hold you in good stead. Now you need to hold it. A Sanskrit word for that at a very high level would be samatva. See, I think that's even here. See, or samana. There are different words of that. But you could also call it sattva. That is an attraction to sat, truth, or an abidance in even-mindedness. See, that for a long enough time to where the distractions begin to wear away, and your worries begin to dissolve, and your mind can return to its natural state of concentration on her, on Divine Mother reality. So all of that falls in this first plane of the first 3 chakras. If you invoke her at the next level, this is a repeat on a different chart of what we learned last week, and you are meeting Mother Kali. This is a way of pointing out Anaranian to you. What's Anaranian? We had that word last week. It's the subtlemost of the subtle. There's nothing subtler than Shakti power. I'm going like this and I'm not attributing it to Shakti power. I'm seeing you, I'm not attributing it to Shakti power. you're hearing me, you're not attributing it to Shakti power. You're attributing it to eardrums and light and other. These are exterior manifestations that she has provided so that you can see and hear her. With these eyes and with these ears, you're going to have to take her into subtler levels to see her finer and finer shades of consciousness. So down here with the gross shades, she'll come and abide, but then it's going to be very difficult for you to see her workings here, isn't it? Yet people look around and say, this must all be the working of some divine creator. See, even scientists are beginning to say that. Otherwise, there's no way to explain it. Like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, look how a tiny little seed in semen turns into a full-sized man. See, what a miracle, you see. From birth, growth, all the way up to, from cradle to the grave, as my teacher used to say, you can go at it from the standpoint of I must discriminate away name and form, but you can also look at it and say, tantrically speaking, this is all a miracle. See, everything here I'm seeing is miraculous. It's inexplicable. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say, there are 6 signs of God in human beings, and one of those is intelligence. Man is one of the 6 signs of God's, proof of God's existence, mankind. See? To see another human being is a proof that God exists to them. And more than that, just to see their form, to see how intelligent they are, or how far they've awakened to their intelligence, is another deeper and fuller sign of the existence of God, or we're calling Mother here. See? That's what's burning out the eyes right now, you see. When we make eye contact, and when understanding is happening, and words are being related, and comprehension is being gleaned from words, that's Mother Power doing this. So that's why you invoke her, to wake you up, make you aware of her movement. The movement of everything else is rather humdrum, is rather quotidian, is rather habitual, is rather surface-like. How long can you sit and watch a river flow before you have to stand up and walk away and say to yourself, that was a beautiful river? And then, but this flow of Shakti power that's at the source of all rivers, like an ocean is at the source of rivers, that remains hidden, unseen. So this is why you can't come to a class like this and say, "Oh, Babaji's going to introduce me to Mother Kali." Like I could pull out, behind the curtain here, a four-armed goddess, say, "Well, here she is. You see, come shake her 4 hands. Good luck with that." No, it's that she's this divine presence. That's your own inner essence, and you're not aware of her yet. And this is what waking up, or self-realization, or becoming an illumined soul, or having samadhi, experiencing nirvana is really all about. And it doesn't have to be so difficult. Like oil hidden in sesame seeds, like fire hidden in wood, like patina hidden in copper. The Upanishads say that's how you have to look for her. You have to look for this divine. In the case of a penny, you put it on the shower, and wait for weeks, and pretty soon it'll start turning green. There was patina in there. Or you see a clear lake, all of a sudden one season gets covered with moss, and you knew the potential for this moss was hidden in the lake, even though its waters were clear. So you're going to have to wait a while for these manifestations to come forward, and so invoke, attract. You see. She's all attracting, but now you have to become the all-attracting one. So you have to beckon her to come to you. If you have to mew like a kitten or bleat like a baby sheep, do it, you see. But once you find her, be the monkey and cling, for a while, and make your introduction to her yourself. See. It's obvious I must have met her already. My teacher must have met her already. In fact, my teacher used to say, I've seen her face, I've heard her voice, now I long for her grace with all my heart. I heard him say this on several occasions in class. He was talking about Sri Sharda Devi, his guru, who actually saw her in physical form. You know, there were no pictures of her back then. All of a sudden we've got, 20, 30 pictures now of Holy Mother. You can actually look at her. You can look at the Divine Mother of the Universe yourself by looking at the picture of Sri Sharda Devi. And that should give you all the solace in the world that you need to say, I have looked on the face of the Divine Mother of the Universe in human form. Can death frighten me anymore? I sang that song last week. Abai Pari Pranna Shilpechiya, big Bengali song. Verses, of words with intense meaning about the presence of the Divine Mother of the Universe. And once you have made that introduction, then you'll begin to see everything not just as kinetic energy or electric energy. You'll be seeing everything as the movement of Shakti. That's at the hub of all of the movement. See, it's at that point then you can let go of surface movement, apparencies, and you can begin to see the underlying power operating everything. And that will show you the meaning for your life, whereas before you thought there was no meaning to life. It'll give you existence with a capital E, instead of a small lowercase version, which is just mundane human convention and superficiality. One of the great poets, saints of India, sings this song, "O soul, you're just a small sparkling fish inhabiting the surface of the waters of relativity, where death is granted as fishing ground." Shall I repeat it? Did you get it? Then he goes on to sing, "Quick, dive deep, where death cannot go with his net. Dive deep into the ocean of mother's beauty." So this little ego fish, this sparkling little ego fish, stays at the surface of things, is what I'm saying. See? And that's where death can scoop with his net. That's called rebirth. It's not like some Bengali man back in 1400, 1500 and so forth, all of a sudden heard these teachings in the Dharma and then all of a sudden decided to put them into a song to sing to his children, see. So that why? So that they would attract themselves to Mother and that they would try to attract Mother to them, to bring her out from hiding. Well, when you bring her out from hiding on this next level, it's called fourth chakra level, then you've got Mother Kali called Varnamai. She's full of Varna, alphabets, letters, words, you see. They name her what she is. So if you know the meaning of the Sanskrit, you'll start to get a clue that what's in a word, all of this was in a word. Everything in this room starts out as a word. Even in the sense of the physical inventor, you see, who wants to create something, he'll give it a word first. You'll have to name it, right? Your parents had to give you a name in order to put some sort of identifier on you, you see. Hopefully the name didn't become a limitation. In fact, that's why many of us took Sanskrit names later, because we didn't like to be named after Europeans, warlike Europeans, you see. We wanted to have a spiritual name, so we gave up worldly life and we took the spiritual life and we changed our name. Not that it mattered that much, but you'll have to see through names and forms. But at the level where they operate, you want to extract the meaning out of them. See, it's like there's a meaning in everything and you want to know it. So you learn how to pull it out, extricate it, and leave aside the non-essence. Just like Sri Ramakrishna say, a swan will drink a bowl of milk, a mixture of milk and water, and it'll extract only the cream and leave the water behind. See, so that's swan is the Hamsa, called the great soul. See, so it's a metaphorical story in India where you have to learn how to extract the essence out of everything. Well, you might as well start with words, and she'll help you with that, Varnamai. She's Saraswati there. See, Saraswati is the is the goddess of art and learning. So all of a sudden, well, I've heard of her, you see. In fact, she was one of the first Vedic goddesses that ever appeared. They called her Umavati, daughter of the eternal snow mountains. You see, Himalayas, Himavati, you see, Uma. So these aspects are wisdom aspects of Mother. There are devotional aspects of Mother, and there are prosperity aspects of Mother, and there are formless aspects of Mother like Kali, and there are transformative aspects of Mother like Durga. When you meet Saraswati, pretty much you've run into, smack dab into the meaning of words, the wisdom in words. And so you study them. And hopefully you study them not just in first grade through high school to get grades in English, but you come to your college education like I did, and you find out there's a Sanskrit teacher nearby, and you want to take Sanskrit. See? Because it has words that, for aspects of spiritual life, that the English never contemplated. Neither did the French, nor the Italians, or any of the Europeans. Neither did the Middle Easterners, till Christ came back from India. So you have to go to a land that was alive with meaning in words. Mother, Shakti meaning. And say, guess what? This is Divine Mother who's operating all of this. It's not happening by coincidence. Matter can't do it by itself. Nature's insentient. The gods and goddesses are within you. So what's left over, you see, besides yourself, is this Shekinah, the Jewish used to call her, you see, this Divine Mother power. Chit Shakti, Father of Yoga called her. He didn't necessarily say you had to believe in God or Mother when he put forth his Islam system, but he did say, start using words for her, Chit Shakti. This is where Chit Shakti kicks in. That's the end of the ego game, you see. And from here on in, it's all wisdom to you. Brushing your teeth is wisdom. See? Anything you do or see is all just a manifestation of wisdom. In other words, it's not the manifestation of Maya anymore. It was a manifestation of Maya when you weren't aware of her. As soon as you become aware of her, that same Maya turns wisdom, turns intelligent. See? And that's where you find the difference in what a sound an animal makes, or the wind blowing through the trees, or these things they talk about in a more New Age style. The real distinction is you get to get the meaning from things when she's present, when you know she's present in everything. And that's meeting Mother Kali. It's not a difficult thing, it's just a very subtle thing. And you're not used to pulling off shades of gross levels of things to get to the subtle. So you have to become a miner of gold. You have to become like an Eskimo, study snow conditions. You have to study your own consciousness like an Eskimo studies snow conditions, because his life depends on it day to day. Your spiritual life will depend upon invoking her every day. Oh, best of all, with every breath. Because what better than the breath to represent life? It represents life, it also represents her. Prana is her most secret and powerful tool. Through the prana, she knows everything. The Upanishads even say this, like a spider on its web. She's there in the web of prana, and she knows everything that moves and everything that changes inside of all 7 worlds of existence on the 3 levels of individual, collective, and cosmic through her prana and her psychic prana. That is the prana that's in food, the prana that's in the breath, and the prana that's in your intelligence, your intellect, you see, how things move. From causal to subtle to gross. In 3 steps, you see, coming out. So you don't want to lose track of her. She takes that 3rd step, which is what you did when you got born in the fetus with your parents, who didn't know anything, couldn't teach you anything of spiritual merit. They couldn't teach you a thing. You're lucky if they gave you a little bit of character, a little bit of integrity. But spirituality you didn't get. You didn't meet her. So on that step from the subtle to the gross, you lost everything. Why do you think they sing songs like Mono Chalo Nikaniji Chane? Oh, mind, return to your own home, your eternal abode. You're a stranger here in this foreign land. No one's your own. The first song Vivekananda sang to Sri Ramakrishna when he met him as a teenager. When Swamiji was a teenager. So, make your introductions to the heart chakra through the goddess of art and learning. She will refine the voice, reveal the scriptures, and transmit to you the ability to share what you know with others. In the 9 limbs of bhakti, Sri Ram says, the very first 2 limbs, you must share these teachings with others. Hear them first from your teacher, begin to spread them around. The minute people hear them, whether they understand them or not, is a good thing. It's a good moment for them. Don't worry about them misunderstanding them. That will happen anyway, but plant them. See? Because the longer they have time to seed and germinate and grow inside of a person's mind, the more darkness will go away and the more light will come from them. Understanding must grow in stages. Enlightenment dawns on the mind by stages. Sri Ram, who was the author of the 9 limbs of bhakti, that's one of his quotes. That's the eternal seed of awareness that is living in those teachings you're giving. That's why later on he would say to Hanuman, in the Adhyatma Ramayana, so forth, says, well, my wonderful, precious devotee, you see, the death of all things is simply a return to their source. The destruction of all things is simply a return to their source. So when you're talking death and destruction to an illumined soul, he's thinking, this person may be thinking that there's an end to objects and to nature and to Maya and to mind and to intelligence and to soul. But there's no end. Everything's just returning to its source every time it disappears from the gross level. It goes back to the seed. And the seeds are in words. The word is, of course, the most precious and primal seed of all. Her word, like Om, or like Hrim. So on towards Kalatma, you're getting more towards Mother Kali's own name, aren't you? It has something to do with time, Kala, and Atma, the eternal soul. Kalatma, she's well named there. There she'll raise and refine your prana, and you will experience, in case you want to know that that's happened, these 6 phases of unfoldment. So here they are. Pratista, Unmani, Samana, Nirodika, Ardendu, and Bindu. These are noted by the teachers of Kundalini Yoga to be 6 phases. When Kalatma begins to work inside of you and you've invoked her, that is, you're waking up to higher teachings and you're beginning to have even visions of the gods and goddesses and so forth, then you can see that she's working in you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Pratista means basically all of a sudden you feel steady. You felt like you know how Krishna puts it in the Gita, right? Yata dipo, nivatasto, nengate, sopama, smrita, yogino yata chitasya, yunjato yoga atmanaha. Like a candle in a windless place, the mind of the yogi stays steady, unwavering, steeped in yoga, and in full realization of the Atman. That's how Krishna puts it in the Gita. So that's what you're beginning to feel with this first stage. You feel steady. You felt like a candle in a windy place before. And by the way, that's also teaching in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where they're telling you that you're going to feel like you're dying. One of the symptoms of that is that you feel unsteady. See? But wait, and try and remember the teachings, remember your teacher, remember your ishtam, remember wisdom, remember the words like Om and Hrim in that state of dying, and this pratista will settle in. All of a sudden you'll feel like you're not ready to be blown out or made extinct. You'll feel steady again. See, and you'll pass from the body in a steady state. Just like you pass into dream one night in a steady state. Oh, I had a great day. I think I'll sleep now. See. So pratishta means to be made steady. We could sing you a song about that. We will crush the stars to atoms. We will unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We are those who are steady in the truth. Swami Vivekananda said in a letter he wrote to one of his students in America. Unmani, it's a kind of samadhi listed in the Kundalini Yoga scriptures. It's like you've gone beyond mentation. So mind has been made extinct, so your thinking isn't so important to you anymore. In your early stages, you had to be breathless, right? You had to prove by shutting down your senses, seeing, tasting, touching, hearing, and smelling, that you still exist. And people usually don't think of it that way, but when they meditate and they achieve extinction of the senses, that is, shut them off, the first realization that will come to them is that I still exist without my senses. And that's a very important pivotal point for materialistically minded persons, see, is that they exist without their senses. Funny, it happens to them every night in dream and deep sleep, but they don't think about it and come back with that realization, you see. But in meditation, you'll have a better chance of coming back with that realization that I existed without my senses, so I must not be my senses. I existed without my body too, and my wife or my husband laying next to me said that I didn't breathe for minutes at a time when I went into deep sleep, so I existed without breath too. Like kumbhaka, right? In meditation, all of a sudden you just forget about the breath, and a few minutes later you'll go, you'll come back into the body, and the lungs need to be pumped again, you see. So Mother will help you plug the prana in that pumps the lungs, that brings you back into awareness of the waking state. This is all passing by much too fast, you see, for most souls to perceive. Swifter than the swiftest, it's just happening, you see. Consciousness, the way it shifts dimensions and states of awareness. So I live without the senses, you see. So you can then, when I'm bringing this up, is you can live without the mind too. See, you can be unminded. You see, it's not so good when your children practice it. They don't mind you, but it's good when you practice it. You see, because you can get beyond the thinking process, and after the senses and body go, then what's left in meditation, according to your teachers, but to quit thinking. I used to joke about that. You, growing up, your father gets down on you for not thinking. And you start thinking, you get the idea, and then you go to your spiritual father and he says, "Why are you thinking so much?" See, so, well, make up your mind. So probably you're going to turn away from both fathers and begin to listen to the mother, you see. You think when I tell you to, and you don't think when I tell you to. That's it. Then you bow to the mother and let her come and go as she will through you, like she did through Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He was completely given to her. 100%. If there is such a thing, 120%. Unmani, samana means just this state of absolute equanimity all the time. So pratishta would be steadiness in the body and energy, and samana, we might say, would be steadiness of mind. Where when after mind has gone, then no mind, no matter never mind, as my teacher used to say. Nirodhaka means extinction of everything. You'll find the same teaching in Patanjali's yoga, Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha is actually the second sloka or sutra of Patanjali's yoga. That is, when the mind's waves go away, then you find yourself in yoga again, in union with divine reality, with your own true self. So then our Dendu and Bindu have to do more with these higher states. Bindu, of course, is third eye, and it's also representative of that level of non-dual wisdom, which you split in half to get half moon, they call it in Tantra. So you can pass through that third eye into crown chakra. So Agya Sahasrara are the words they use there. So, of course, Kalatma, invoking her and having her working on you in this conscious way, this is for a practitioner that's every day putting him or herself into this atmosphere, at least for some time of the day. See? So that's why you would go on retreats, or you would go away and live at an ashram, or you'd go to the Himalayas, or you'd go into a cave, or you'd go spend time with a teacher, so that you're doing this more often. And then you'll begin to see her workings, and then you might meet her. It's like walking through a great city full of skyscrapers, right? And you do it every day, and you marvel at it. And one day on the street you meet the guy who actually was the architect for all these skyscrapers. Well, that's what happens when you find the mother who created all the worlds that you've been seeing. The worlds of taste, touch, smell, hearing, sight, sound, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, dream state, and so forth. All the kingdoms of heaven within you that Jesus talked about, the many mansions of the Father's, the many chambers of the Father's mansion. You actually then one day run into her in that one of those cities, and you ask her, how did you do all that? Amazing projection that is, you see. So you have to court her realms and her ideas and her words with holy company until one day you'll meet her face to face, you see. And then you might want to be the monkey devotee. Quick, oh, she's still here. Cling to her. I'm not letting go. Well, I wanted to take you back through these in a different way today, because it's one of the more beautiful ways of becoming aware of mothers through Kundalini Yoga. I mean, Sri Ramakrishna's actually made the statement in the Gospel, if you read, there will be no spiritual awakening happening without the awakening of Mother Kundalini. He made this statement. There will be no spiritual awakening possible until you awaken Mother Kundalini. So he was very serious about Kundalini Yoga. And Kundalini Yoga has had its problems in India. And of course it's had its misinterpretations in the West. So, trying to tie it up with physical nerves and food and asana alone, you see, is not a good idea. She doesn't like to be bound like that. You're not understanding her spontaneous motion. You see, her Kriyavati aspect even, how she's impossible to pin down, trying to pin her down to these nerve endings and flows and asanas and breathing and so forth. She's going to want to go beyond that and take you with her, you see. You've got the tiger by the tail there. It's sort of like you are the snail here, and she's the tortoise. You know what the snail said when it got on the back of a tortoise? Whee! You're moving now, you see, a lot faster than you thought before that you ever could, see. And of course, then the tortoise might fall on the back of a wild boar, and the wild boar fall on the back of an elephant, and they're all having their own versions of whee! So as this dynamic motion takes place, then you're going to want to keep this eye open, you see. If thine eye be single, you shall know her truth. In that way, and there are other signs too that might happen to you. You'll feel absorbed. You'll feel like you're not you anymore. There's no you or me or we or we. There's just one stable position, and that's the self. That's the I, aham. Aham idam. There's just myself and mother. There's Shiva and Shakti here, and that's the only distinction I'm aware of anymore. And out of that, samadhi will come, and intoxication from samadhi. I think that's probably one of the most important facets of Sri Ramakrishna's manifestation in the 1800s, in this Kali Yuga, was to show us intoxication. Jesus showed us love, Buddha showed us compassion, and other great souls showed us different things. But Sri Ramakrishna came and showed us the intoxication of samadhi. Ananda. It was an expression of Ananda. And this was his own personal state of awareness. See? He wasn't trying to gift this to us. He was just naturally standing there, you see, in a natural state, and saying, I'm in bliss all the time, and this is my true nature, and I think it's yours too. You might want to try this out. And get the rest behind you. It's not that Christ and Buddha didn't also go into bliss. Christ had beatific vision in the forest, you see, under the tree, and under the tree in a different land, Lord Buddha sat under the Bo tree and had nirvana, the blissed nirvana. So whether you do it on the mount or in the forest or under a tree or in a cave, that bliss will stand forth, and that's Anandamayi Ma, you see. We often sing that, see, about Anandamayi. See. That's one of the beautiful names for Mother. A newborn power comes from this. See. That is, if you will come out of this intoxication of samadhi, you'll feel not just steady, but you'll feel like you're invested with a power that can do anything. You can level mountains. Mother Kali's wisdom thunder rumbles profoundly with a power that can level mountains. How's that for a line for a song? Mother Kali's wisdom thunder rumbles profoundly with a power that can level mountains. So this is how you'll feel. It's something like if Muhammad, go to the mountain, or the mountain has to come to Muhammad, whatever, let's just do away with the whole mountain. See, I can do it. I am Muhammad. I am the messenger. I am the prophet, and I have had the experience of divine reality, and I'm now going to transmit it to others through the power of Mother herself. And I'll transmit it at 4 different levels, thank you very much, for those who need it. I just need to invoke her to do it. Trembling, they say trembling will happen. This isn't just like your hand, has palsy or some sort of disease, you see. But you feel this, every nerve within your being, and all the subtle nerves too, trembling because they're receiving this newborn power. And this is why the yogi must be prepared, must be able to sit, must be able to breathe, must have constructed himself from the outside in and got himself and herself ready for this power to visit. You don't want to be caught with a unprepared body-mind mechanism, and when she makes her advent into your nervous system. And actually, I think some of the books in the 60s in the West showed us that there were people who were invoking Kundalini power who had not done the practice to prepare themselves for her force. And they turned into kooks, writing really very detrimental books on the subject. And that's why here in the second millennium I wrote a book on Kundalini Yoga called Reclaiming Kundalini Yoga, because I wanted to reclaim it from those ideas that were broadcast in the 60s and 70s by people who had not done the practice in the traditional way. They were doing it through drugs, or they were doing it prematurely, doing too much breathing exercises. They didn't have a mantra given to them by a teacher. There are all sorts of things that they didn't do in order to prepare themselves for this powerful descent of Mother Shakti into the body-mind mechanism that makes it ready, a ready vessel, so that it can transmit, and so that it won't fall apart with this kind of spiritual trembling when it visits it. And it won't fall apart at death either. In fact, death will be nothing after you receive this power. You'll look upon death as just the body falling. And salute Yama. Let's see. Oh, Yama, I prefer to think of you as truthfulness, nonviolence. You're the 5 yamas. You're not the yama of death to me. These are eternal yogic principles. And then authentic bliss called Ananda there. We've talked about it before. Sri Ramakrishna, again, the best exemplar in all of history. That is, physical history and spiritual history both, of what the expression of bliss is all about. That was really his state of being. He came out of bliss, into bliss, and returned to bliss without moving out of bliss ever. And it was just naturally that way. To try and find him in a mood that wasn't absolutely abstracted would be very difficult. But if you happen to find him in that, any word you say, be careful, because he would go back into it. Like, don't say something like lion or broom or wax museum, or anything like that, because this would throw him back into samadhi, and you wouldn't know why. You'd have to ask him later why the man sweeping with a broom made him go into samadhi, and why seeing a lion at the zoo made him go into samadhi, why seeing an English woman on a horse in an English circus that blew through Calcutta, jumping through fire, put him into samadhi. Because you were just sitting there going, this is great popcorn. Well, he was saying, just taking a few minutes, look at that, and gone. Why the woman jumping through a hoop and fire? Because it took so much practice and discipline for her to be able to do that without hurting herself. And so he saw that, he thought of sadhana. It takes so much practice and discipline to prepare yourself for meeting Mother Kali. And that's why we say, be careful what you pray for, or what you ask for. Don't ask for it prematurely. So you just, oh Mother, please reveal yourself to me at the level that I can bear it, you see. And no more, please. Oh, you're giving me too much now, you see. I'm gone and gone forever, as Buddha said. So this preparation is extremely important. It's one of the main themes of Dharma teaching that I always gravitate to throughout each year that we're together studying this. This is qualification. To qualify yourself for this, and no need to hurry. See, don't drag your feet either. But no need to hurry with the qualification. If you're doing the practice and doing it right, under the guidance of an illumined preceptor, then you're fine. See, and just move forward. As Sri Ramakrishna said, go forward. Well, the 7 victories we already looked at on that self-same, on another chart last week, so we won't go to that. But let's go back here to Om and Ring, as we're at this middle part of the 6 classes. We're looking more towards the power of meeting Mother Kali through her words. And of course, there's Om, there's Aim, there's Hrim, there's Shring, there's Shrim, there's Kleem, there's Kring, there's Hum, there's Fat, there's Svaha. There's a whole bunch of bijams that are top on the list, we find, that have been used for thousands of years in ritual, for instance. So even on that merit alone, that they've been pronounced over fire ceremonies that went on days at a time, in offerings to deities and gods, on that merit alone, they must be sacred. They must have powerful associations with them, and they must cause very intense ramifications to manifest through their pronunciation. On that merit alone, I'm saying, just because they were done in ritual. But what about their origin? Who gave the ritualists in India, the Vedic rishis, these words of power? Who transmitted them to them? We know they came through a line of succession of gurus, but how can we go back to the original soul and find them there, Ishvara? Can we conjure up Sri Krishna again and ask him, or Sri Ram, where do these bijams of power come from? Well, Brahma gave it to Vashishta and the 10 mind-born sons, and they gave it to the rishis, and the rishis passed on to their disciples, and through those the worlds began to manifest. Until right down here to this physical world, you have words that signify things. But you're not using them in any conscious way. Like Holy Mother used to say, and Sri Ramakrishna too, for that matter, is love such a glib word? You just toss it around, love. Oh, love this, I love that. Oh, I love you. See, that's as far as English is concerned, that's a great word of power, isn't it? Let's capitalize it first, and then let's turn it towards Mother or God. And then see what it does for us. And take it away from the mundane uses that we're throwing it at, you see. I love my pleasures, and I love my desires, and I love my possessions, and so forth. These things don't love me back, you see. And they'll prove it pretty soon when they disappear out of your life. They don't love you back. That beautiful car you liked just blew up, you see. It doesn't love you back, obviously, or it would still be around. So, rescue a word like that back from these uses that you've been attributing it to, and place it in a higher position. So this is what we're going to have to do with all words, and this is what I'm doing for 3 hours here Sunday, right? In my case, you can meet me on the street. You know, if I'm an architect of any kind of skyscrapers out there, you'll meet me on the street and you'll ask me things, and I'm not going to start talking worldly nonsense to you. We'll kick in right where we left off the last time we saw each other. See? Maybe 1 or 2 lowercase mantras like, how's your life? You see? Then right on to life's need to be transcended, you see. What about eternal life? Any word will lead you back into the purpose for your existence, purpose for embodiment. I was thinking just last night, as I lay awake, because I don't sleep much, but I do rest, that that if you really wanted to know the real purpose of embodiment, it would be to understand these teachings, to experience realization in the human body. A man is born to no purpose who, having been given the grace of getting a human body, fails to realize God in this lifetime. That's a quote, a paraphrase right out of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Man is born to no purpose if he doesn't use his life to realize God. No purpose. He doesn't mince words or mix words, see. So you could say then, you could put that in a more positive vein and just say, you have to have the experience of realizing God in the body. That would be, to me, the only purpose for being here. There would be no other purpose than that, if you were to understand it rightly. You have to have the experience of God realization in the physical. That's not going to perfect the physical. There's been some philosophers that have gone off half-cocked with that idea. So you think, oh, well, that means everything's going to be perfect. Nothing's never perfect in relativity. Nothing's ever all right with the unreal. That's a quote from my teacher. You're going to think your life is going to be all right and everything's all right. And he said, nothing's ever all right in Maya. In the mind. You see, the mind is Mayic by nature. It's dual. It's only when there's no mind, or your eyes made single, or transcendent mind, or pure mind, that you'll find everything is back to perfect. That is your innate perfection. Your intrinsic perfection has come back upon you. So, how about that for a kickback? We should set it up so that we enter into this body next lifetime, if we haven't done it in this life. Set it up for ourselves that we're going to realize God in the body. That's the only reason for coming back here. Everything else is empty. Empty of the ability to fulfill you, empty of substance. So go on repeating a great, powerful word like that. There's a saying in our tradition, Dirgha Pranava. Dirgha means like extended. Pranava means the word Om. It's called the pranava. It's full of prana, yes, but it has deeper ramifications than that. Durga pranava means one long, slow repetition of Om every morning. Or in the afternoon when you're walking in the forest or something. Or at night before you go to sleep. Just sit, breathe, get ready, and then exude this sound of Om out into the physical atmosphere. And then you will have done some small justice to that great word, Om, which is the word of Brahman, which represents all these things. And we went through them. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the immanent, transcendent, and absolute states of consciousness, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, which is how Gaudapada used it in non-duality, speech, life force, and mind, mother, father, and guru. Mother, A, creates, father, preserves, protects, and guru destroys. That's what that means. Don't become attached to anything because it's all unreal. So get ready to receive it and give it up. See? Let it pass through you. Don't hold on to it. Don't cling. Feminine, masculine, and neuter. Activity, balance, and inertia. Well, what's that sound like? The three gunas, in English, in a more scientific way of saying it, might say activity, balance, and inertia. You could call that Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. See. Past, present, and future, three phases of time, and gross form, subtle form, and causal form. And then what does Holy Mother or Divine Mother say about that in her own scripture called the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam? After Shravana, Mananan, and Nididhyasana, my devotee becomes fit for absorption into the spirit after understanding the meanings of the separate letters discovered in the seed mantra of Mahamaya. So, very pregnant saying there, but you'd have to know a few things to understand it fully. First you have to know what Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana is about. Shravana means to hear. Manana means to roll it over in your mind, contemplate it. This isn't just, okay, I thought about it. I'm going to walk away now. You take it inside, you take it apart, just like she takes this apart for you. How many meanings there are in it. Then you want to contemplate each one of them. See, if you have to do it through song, then, as we do in every class, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Eva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The Guru is Brahma, the Guru is Vishnu, the Guru is Shiva, Devo Maheshwara. Salutations to the eternal Guru. See? So right there, if you just say the word Om, you have met Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in their subtlest form. Anaranya, in their subtlemost form, you've met them in the sound of the word and what it conveys, meaning-wise. So, Shravana, to hear, Manana, to contemplate in right orientation, like the Buddha said, and then Nididhyasana. You have the experience of what you just contemplated. You see, Western intellectualism stops about there at Manana. It contemplates science and quantum physics and particles and thinks about space and planets and astrology and so forth. But it never has the direct experience of them because there is no direct experience of something that's not real. To get direct experience, you have to be focused on the real. That is the essence of a thing. So you can destroy the clay cup, but you can't destroy the thought clay cup. So you're going to have to go back to the indestructible part of any aspect of Mahamaya and find its eternal existence. what doesn't change, what doesn't die. What doesn't get projected, created, projected, and sustained either, but is transcendent of it, because A, U, and M, remember there's a Shvara up there, a one-eyed smile we call it, above the Om sign. Is it there? The Shvara. So that's not connected to the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. So these are the three states of your awareness, which are immanent, transcendent, and absolute, but this is beyond. See, this is transcendent, the Shvara. Sometimes we make this out of dominoes, you see, and big, covers the whole room, you see, and then we let the children, they're all ready to knock that first domino, so the whole Om sign goes falling down, you see. But after they do that, then the question is what happened or what didn't happen. And they see the Shvara wasn't touched, you see. The waking, dreaming, and deep sleep all broke down, but the Shvara, the transcendent, was untouched. It remained the same and unaffected. There's a video of that on our SRV website if you want to look it up, with our little, I think he was about 4 years old at the time, little Micah, one of the children of one of our SRV students, who was talking about Om. 4-year-old, talking about the teachings of Om. It's very sweet to look at. This is where you have to get them young, you see. Get them young, not for insidious purposes, for even worldly or intellectual purposes, but for spiritual potential. You have to give them that chance for spirit. So give them the chance to make their choice at least. And so that means you'll have to qualify yourself to be able to share these teachings with them at an early age. Well, Hrim, as we move on, because we're about ready to end this half, we can look at this as, we know that Om was the static, everything in potential, formless reality. Hrim is what is expressed. It's got its power in the assumption of form. That is, it associates with form, but it never identifies with it. The Mother Shakti is always there. And we break her bijam into 4. Ha, Ra, I, and Im. That is, the M at the end. So the associations there you see in the bijam Hrim are where Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti all meet and merge, she says in her own scripture. That's will, that's wisdom, and that's spontaneous activity. So they all meet and merge in the word Hrim. So if you want to know how all activity happened and how it is willed by the Mother to happen, and what is the wisdom behind the will, and how she brings it out and makes it manifest, then Hrim would be the bijam that you would practice Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana with. Hear it, contemplate it, and realize it. And then you would go to a master and say, I want a mantra for this, and so that I can practice it every day. And this I can invoke Mother Kali, and I will be meeting her on her own ground every day. And I won't accept any compromises. See, this is what I'm after. This is the only purpose for life. This is the only thing I will settle for. And there are plenty of wood and nickels out there that I've already experienced. I don't want them. I'll get them behind me. See, they've all proven to be insubstantial and unsatisfying. Now I want her. See, I want the Mother of the Universe. Yeah. And I want to know what she experiences in her meditations. I know what mine are like. That's a line from a song. Well, you can see there, Ha, Ra, and I, of the 4 matras of Hrim. The first matra represents the gross form, the 5 elements, the physical body, and the active organs. So that's 11 right there, isn't it? This teaching goes up to 11. And Ra is the subtle form, Taijasa. That is the fourfold mind, the 5 mantras, the cognitive organs, and the 5 pranas. And then the causal form, Pragya, it's called formless, non-vibration, and equilibrium. So he's finding out that you break the word Hrim, which is her own word of power. That is, this is a word that's associated with Kali and Durga, mainly, Hrim. If you go to Saraswati, you'll find out Aim is the word that's most often associated with Saraswati. And Lakshmi with Shrim and Krim and so forth. And they're used and sometimes borrowed by other aspects of the goddess, but the main association here is that. And so with Rim, it's a transformative bijam. Those people who want to free themselves from inhibitions and from limitations and from karmas and weights, and they're serious about perfecting themselves in this lifetime, and they'll go to Kali and Durga, and they'll get that mantra Shrim. And not very many people do. Many people will rush to Lakshmi, wealth, abundance, beauty, charm. And then less so, but probably more than Kali and Durga towards Saraswati to get arts, learning, and scriptural wisdom and so forth. So when you're working with Kali Durga, you want to meet her, that means you're a person of character that is almost through with your rounds of birth and death and ignorance. You're waking up, and you want to transform all the dross inside of you that's left into gold, to pure gold. Like Kali got Kali with her tongue. You see in India coming out of the temple, it's all gold. Beautiful. And maybe that's a good image to leave us with as we come to our break. So we'll be back to finish up this final saying, which is the M of Hrim, and what that signifies. After a 10 or 15 minute break. Thank you for your kind attentions. Om. Om Hrim. We have returned and you are back with us. Thank you for joining us live stream. You can also see these after the fact on the Advaita Academy website, but probably best on the SRV website too, if you look for them. They can be reviewed, and the teachings, you could even have a pause button and stop me in the middle of the flow of teaching so that you can do this manana, this contemplation of what you hear on the spot. And we always want to extend our gratitude, though, to Advaita Academy. As, providing us with the materials to be able to live stream, and also this channel to which to use. Many teachers of India, in India, and a few in the West are holding websites, channels, as it were, through Advaita Academy. And we also want to always extend our gratitude to everyone who prepares for these classes, the whole Sangha, and people who make this possible to record on camera with decent sound recording, and so that the world can, if not right now in droves, a few of us can get these teachings and use them for enlightening purposes, for the purpose of enlightenment, but also in the future where more people will see them as Mother spreads her wisdom in her own way at any particular time, due to her own Icha Shakti, or will. And we were just talking about that here. Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti all meet in that bijam, hrim. So it's a very powerful word. If you have attraction to Divine Mother Reality, then seek out a teacher who can give you mantra diksha in Mother Mantra, and begin to use these powerful words within to invoke her and to evoke Shakti power that will transform your life and mind. Life and mind both get a transformation. The best kind of transformation, that is the removal of unreal overlays or false superimpositions, as Vedanta likes to call them, vivarta, adhyasa, things that shouldn't be there, that you're allowing to be there or don't see yet. Mantra will remove those, and practice of it continually for weeks, months, and years at a time, daily, will affect that only real miracle, which is the transformation of human nature. All other miracles we're not interested in. Walking on water or producing things out of midair. We're not interested in those because those don't change our character. They don't build character in us. So if you're seeking the highest, then you go to the highest, and you also engage in the highest practice you can possibly manage to do. And in that kind of engagement, you'll find out that these great teachings are filled with power, Shakti power. The words also evoke that power in you. Like these words here, that we haven't taken up yet on either side of this chart. Let's read these slokas from Mother herself. You have to imagine, though, or envision that, though you've never met her face to face, may have seen her as a 4-armed goddess or a 10-armed goddess and so forth, that she speaks through these scriptures, through the mouths and minds of the illumined souls, like seers and sages and saints. And, so we get her voice through them and put in these words that are her own expression in the way that's most potent, like in this particular example from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. One should go into the region where there is no speech or thing spoken, absolutely free of dualities, called Akanda Satchitananda. There, with Om, meditate on that highest flame of consciousness. In this rare meditation, great beings have destroyed ignorance, realized their perfect nature, and established identity of the jiva with Brahman. This is my higher self. So it sounds like maybe a sloka from a scripture, and all of a sudden you find out it's Mother speaking to you. Literally, through the scriptures. She has her own teachings. So right away she says, go into that realm where there's no speech or thing spoken. That's silence, that's mauna. You have to empty everything out and listen with an inner ear. You have an inner eye, so try also opening up this inner ear to hear the sound of silence. And when you do that, then you'll may have that vision of light too. So Shabda, sound, and Jyoti, light, are two of her profound vehicles for that carry her wisdom to you. This is all from, again, Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. This is a huge, voluminous scripture, and it was never put into any other language but Sanskrit until Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciple, Swami Vijnanananda, did it. Swami Vijnanananda did not spend a lot of time with his master, nor with the rest of the direct disciples, but he was living in other parts of India, and he was a great scholar and a pundit, but he was also, of course, a disciple of Ramakrishna. So he turned his mind, his great mind, towards taking some of these scriptures, and took this huge, voluminous scriptures called Srimad Devi Bhagavatam and transferred it into English for us. I did my first reading of that entire work in my 30s, and went through it and marked everything I liked that was most important and made a computer file of it. So, because I know it would be unlikely I would go back and read the whole thing a second time. However, at the end of that scripture it says, those beings who read it once, they get enlightenment. Those beings who read it twice, they get more than that. And pretty soon you find out, if you read this great scripture a number of times, that you're getting immensely more added unto you. It'll all be added unto thee, you see. So that's how important this great scripture is. It's one of the two mother scriptures. The other one's called the Chandi, you might have heard of it. Or it's also called the Durga Saptasati, Sri Durga Saptasati. I think there's another name for it too, but we usually refer to it as the Chandi. That's where you would hear Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Chaitaneti Abhidiyate Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Namo Namaha Ya Devi Namo Namaha Ya Devi Namo Namaha Ya Devi Namo Namaha. You can sing that Om. It's like a Dirgha Pranava, long recitation of Om at the end of these slokas. So it goes on to say, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Chaitaneti Abhidiyate Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah. What's Chaitana? It's intelligence, it's consciousness. So as intelligence, you exist in the hearts and minds of all beings. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Mayeti Shabdgita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah. As Vishnu, the world preserver, you exist in the hearts and minds of all beings. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Chitti Rupena Ya Krishnani Tat Vyapyas Tajagat Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Chitti Rupena Ya, the very form of thought. Stata Jagat, you remain steady in the world, in the human beings that are in the world, in their hearts and minds. You manifest as their very thoughts. Chitti Rupena, Rupa thought, Rupa form, Chitta thought, you see. So every one of these verses, Nidra Rupena Samstita, you exist in the form of sleep in the hearts and minds of all beings. Daya Rupena Samstita, you exist in the form of compassion in the hearts and minds of all beings. Chaya, Daya and Chaya. Chaya, you exist in the hearts and minds of all beings as shadow play. You exist in the hearts and minds of all beings as Maya. Daya, Chaya, and Maya, she's all of it. And she exists in the hearts and minds of all beings. That's how she's appearing to you. That's how you're meeting her. So you come to a class with Babaji's, giving a class on meeting Mother Kali. It's futile for me to give a class on that. You've already met her. You're her. She exists in the hearts and minds of all beings as all these qualities. And you're not seeing her yet as them. It's like they used to, in Vedanta, they say the eye cannot see itself. It sees everything else, but it can't see itself, you know. Try looking at your own eye right now. I'd like to laugh at the expressions on your faces as you do. So it's like Divine Mother is like that. She's the only thing we're not noticing. She's that subtle. Anaranya, she's the subtle most of the most subtle. So some musical examples of how they would chant slokas from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam in mother temples around the world, and in sanghas that worship her. Down here we have the final addendum to this. I mean, we did say, you know, there are other bijams, Aim, Krim, and Klim, but in the first class I showed you all those bijams on that chart that we had. And I showed you what each of those bijams mean and what significance they have in spiritual life. You can look back again on that first class on our website if you want to review that. Another quote from her here: after balancing the breath via pranayam and cognizing the differentiated states of the bija mantra and what they signify, meditate on that bija and mentally dissolve the gross body into the subtle body into the causal body, and the causal body into the turiya state of Hrim, symbolized by the matra Om. Matra is a particle. Mantra is the whole syllable, but a matra, it actually is like mata, it's like the word ma. Matra means a particle or a letter. So you have A-U-M, so each of those is a matra. So you take a word apart in this tradition, you find out what's in the letter, not just what's in the word. If you just jump to words, sentences, books, tomes, libraries, that's what the West did with an intellectual understanding, and they amassed all this lower wisdom called aparavidya. But they never got satisfaction from it. They never reached enlightenment through it, including scriptures. You can't get enlightenment through just scriptures either. But as soon as you put Mother together with the word in the matra and understand that it's not just the word you're trying to understand with the intellect, but it's the matra you're trying to understand with your heart, with your intelligence, then she appears. And it gives meaning to the whole thing, eternal meaning. The worlds mean something then. Time, space, name, form, causality, Maya itself begins to mean something. In fact, you recognize it and you can back off from it. Like you would get yourself out of a fog bank so you can see better. It's not real, a fog bank. You're imagining things in it that aren't happening, fears and so forth. And Maya is that way too. As soon as you back off from it and see it, then you've made fear afraid of itself and you've put death in its own grave. There are no boogeymen in there and no ghosts and not even grizzly bears after you. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. I say no lions, no tigers, no bears, oh ma. Or om ma. So she has many things to say about it. And further, after and before entering samadhi, but she's giving us a lot of credit there, isn't she? And before entering samadhi, focus upon me, the supreme deity, the luminous self-effulgent goddess who is one with Brahman. We were just talking at the break about how she's that intermediary between Brahman and the worlds. We'd usually call Om that intermediary. In the beginning was the word and so forth. But you have to provide for this Shakti power that will energize, that will awaken the power in words and turn them into worlds. And These are the seeds in your deep sleep state. See why you're no one in deep sleep, right? And it's a blessed no one. It's a blissful no one. You're a happy no one. See, as soon as you start dreaming, less happy. As soon as you start waking, probably not very happy at all. See, not all the time, certainly. So why am I so blissful in deep sleep? And what's beyond deep sleep is what the Indian seers wanted to know. What's beyond the seeds? And should I water them again? If you water them with Shakti power, great. But if you water them and leave that chore up to the ego, it's a problem. See? You're going to water the wrong ones. That's Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. I've taken her names out of it and turned it into 3 different stotrams, like this one. Paravidya-rupini, Paramatma-dharini, Parameswarupini Devi. Paravidya-rupini, Paramatma-dharini, Parameswarupini Devi. Parashakti-dayini, Parabrahma-sakshini, Jaya Parameshwari Devi. Jaya Bhuvaneshwari, Jaya Bhavatarini, Om Tripura Sundari Devi. Jaya Bhuvaneshwari, Jaya Bhavatarini, Om Tripura Sundari Devi. Deva Devi Swarupaya Brahmakala. Verses roll on and on like that. But what does it mean? It's beautiful to hear, and is that going to be enough, though, just to hear it? Shravana? Or are you going to manana it? What does it mean? O bearer of the Atman, essence in all beings, you are the primordial substance permeating nature, life, and mind. The primordial substance pervading nature, life, and mind. Eternal wisdom rays emanate from your exquisite form like awesome displays of circular lightning, transforming miraculously into countless worlds, hosts of beings, and infinite arrays of objects. Your nectar-like compassion flowing everywhere reveals the nature of your incomparable Shakti power, exposing you as the transcendent witness consciousness of ultimate reality itself. You are our peerless mother, unrivaled, preeminent in all of existence. Your unprecedented victory over everything, manifest and unmanifest, makes you the matriarch of the 3 worlds. And behold, the all-enchanting goddess of the 3 beauteous forms. O thou of infinite spiritual moods unending, Jai Ma, Om Shri Ma, Om Shri Kali Ma. That's just the first of these 4 verses, you see, that come out of her names. You see, I had to stretch the meanings out of her names. We say Paramatma Dharini, that's the holder of the Atman, right? Dharani means to hold, Atman means the soul, the supreme soul. Para means supreme. She's the supreme holder of the Atman in you. See? She's placed the Atman in you so that you're just not a body, mind, intellect complex. And you born and die, and that's it. You see? She's placed the eternal soul in you so that you're the eternal being that she is. One with your mother. I and my mother are one. So it can be put into music, and we can go on. For instance, your exquisite form, eternal wisdom rays emanate from your exquisite form like awesome displays of circular lightning. Now that was an experience I had in Ohio, out in the Midwest there, when I was touring singing these songs to people at churches and yoga centers and for Jaima music back in the 70s and 80s. So one night I gave this sacred arts event, I like to call it. So I had an Indian dancer with me and Indian tapa players, and I was singing these bhajans and explaining them to people in the Midwest, you see, back then. And I got, after the event, I was very tired, and I went out and sat in the car just to be quiet. Sat in the touring van there, you see, that I had. And it was a big storm gathered, over the next half hour, like they do there in the Midwest, and lightning started flashing. And I looked up one point and saw these 5 or 6 or 7 bolts of lightning connect in a circular lightning. It's the only time I've ever seen that. Then, just a couple of weeks ago, I was reading the scriptures, and they have that explained. They talk about circular lightning. I'd never noticed that was in the scriptures. So now when I sing it in this song again, which I wrote over a decade ago, it reminds me of that. It's like her teeth are like flashes of wisdom, lightning, one song says in India. She smiles, brings her teeth together, lightning comes out, you see. Powerful lightning bolts come out of her teeth. They have these amazing symbologies for her countenance. And wisdom knowers will visualize this inside of them to inspire them. Where did you, like my teacher used to say, where did your boredom go then? See? Where did your fear go then? What happened to your doubt? See, he's talking about when you contemplated Mother Kali. What happened, to all these things that used to bother you? They're gone, utterly gone, along with my ignorance. And guess what? I can return and have that experience again. Her will is my will. See, is there any reason why I should be unhappy or devoid of peace or unable to understand anything or without my compassion for suffering? Is there any reason why any of these things should plague me anymore when I and my mother are one? And even God can do nothing to harm me because of her. If God wanted to harm me, he would have to go through her to do it. Who said this? Sri Sharda Devi. Even God cannot harm my children, she said. Well, that's easy to say because God doesn't want to do harm to anyone. Never will. God's not a form. God has no mind. God doesn't think. God has no enemies, nor friends. That's Brahman you're talking about. That's the Shvara of Om, you see. That's the M of Hrim. So don't drag that down into your comfort zones, please. Leave that where it is, transcendent, pure, and perfect, as it always has been and always will be. But the mother you can pray to. I had an email today come in from a person who's raised in the Christian tradition, but I took refuge in Sri Ramakrishna and SRV and for years, but I still have this tendency to pray. I want to pray all the time. Is this okay? See? And so I'm saying, basically, you cannot pray to God. You have to pray to a form. And so choose the highest form the human mind can conceive of. This is Swami Vivekananda's quote. The very highest form that the human mind can conceive of is Ishvara, or Ishvari. That's God with form. That you can pray to. And then she was asking questions like, well, should I ask for things? I don't feel like I should. And I said, no, you should never ask for anything. She already knows what you need, and she'll give it to you at the right time. Just put full faith in her. We don't ask for things. See? Sri Ramakrishna, even Swami Vivekananda asked him once to pray to Mother Kali to help his family, who was in a bad condition, and Sri Ramakrishna said, I'm sorry, I can't ask her for anything. It's not possible for me to ask Mother Kali for anything. But you can go ask her, he said. Go to the Kali temple and pray to her. Well, Vivekananda, even as a young man, did not like temples and images. See, he was a non-dualist without even knowing he was a non-dualist yet, which the master brought out of him eventually. along with love for Mother Kali too. But so Swamiji went 3 times to the temple to pray to Kali. And when he went in, he saw her living. It wasn't just a statue there, that some rituals were done before, you see. He saw her come alive to him. Not Mrinmay, Chinmay. She was a full of consciousness. And he walked out stunned. He'd never had experience like that. Walked back to Master, and the Master said, "Did you ask her for what you needed?" And Swamiji said, "Oh, I forgot. Go back and ask her for what you want." So he went back again, sat in front of the image, saw Mother Kali come alive, reeled out of the temple, went back to Sri Ramakrishna again. "Did you ask her?" "Oh, I forgot. This happened 3 times. And Swami Vivekananda was no fool. It was not anyone that you could overcome. He's a grand intellect, as we know. Well, fine, he figured it out and said, "I see this as your doing, isn't it?" And Sri Ramakrishna laughed. He said, "Your family will not want for anything, no food or clothing. They'll have everything they need, don't worry." He said, so he pronounced it and it happened. But he gave Swami Vivekananda that experience that you really can't ask for Mother for anything or God for anything. Well, it's obvious you can't ask God because God doesn't have anything. God is full and complete and is beyond prayer and prayee and active praying. It's beyond all triputis. Knowing, knowledge, and active knowing. That's inexpressible Brahman. Akhanda Satchidananda Brahman, where there is nothing. But he could go and appeal to Mother Kali. And good luck with that one too, because she's also very high and transcendent. So, bringing about that fact that when you meet Mother Kali, that you don't know how you're going to feel or act. This happens in a sort of less intense way when you go see your guru. We used to go to have private meetings with Swami Sheshanandaji Maharaj, and we knew that he was Holy Mother's last living monastic disciple, so we had a very great reverence for him. And so we set up a meeting with him, you see, because he was accessible. He used to say the guru has to be accessible, cannot be on a throne and you never see him, or some flash in the pan top 10 guru somewhere. See, it has to be accessible. So we could actually set up meetings to go see this great soul. So we would walk into his people would walk into these meetings and sit down, and the first thing you see was just a plain chair there, him sitting there, and a box of Kleenex. They learned how to set this up, you see. They know that as soon as you started talking to Swami Sheshananda, Holy Mother would come through him, because he had given his whole being to her. Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, not Kali, although it's the same. But so people would sit down, look at him, and they would have had all these questions ready to ask him. Instead, they had all these tears. You see, because you're looking at this beautiful face of this old monk who's radiating Divine Mother's presence. Everyone had this experience with him. There was a rare person who didn't walk out of there with a Kleenex in their hand, a wet Kleenex. So this happens, you see, this presence of God happens in those kinds of sanctified atmospheres, you see, where everything has been consecrated based on knowledge of Mother reality. And that's all they're thinking about. There's nothing else that's important competing with that. It's not like homes and families and ancestors and other countries where every little thing is competing with it. Unfortunately, I must say that I heard from one of my students that they went back to that center the other day to hear a Swami talk, and there were people there in the room where my teachers teach who were like operating cell phones. See? That wouldn't have happened in my teacher's ashram. There was nothing social going on there. You came there for one thing only, and if you weren't doing it, you'd get scolded, vehemently scolded. for letting the standard down, for compromising. So he held that iron hand in that way, this little monk, for 90 years, into his 90th years, his 90th span of life. So, but now, see the people set off a cell phone somewhere in there, have to answer it and so forth. They don't have that reverence for the presence of Divine Mother. Now, Holy Mother used to say that she was there at the temple, and she would notice that when worldly people walk into the temple, which is rare, like covered in perfume or makeup or something, some people from the world wander into the temple, that she would actually feel the divine presence disappear from the images. So that when you worship in front of an image, as we've tried to explain and even demonstrated here, is that the presence should come through that. And then you should maintain the presence. You don't just walk into the room where a picture of your Ishtam is and just go about your business. See, you immediately see the Ishtam, you salute it, you bow down to it, offer flower, incense, then you go about your business, you see. So it's God first and you second. Probably better to say God first, the rest of the world second, and you last, you see. So you have to nurture the presence of the divine that can manifest through the image. It's not the image itself, so don't get on your high horse about image worship and so forth, like we often do in Christianity. But you have to realize that the divine presence can manifest through anything. Now, even through the slamming of a door, because of the wind god. Thank you for that accent value on that statement. Brings to bear the point is that Sri Ramakrishna used to say that wherever the divine image is kept and worshipped, there the divine presence dwells. And this is also why there are some places you go to that feel holy, and some places you go to that are supposed to be holy, but you don't really feel the holiness there. If you're a sensitive spiritual aspirant, you'll go to certain holy places wherever, in any country, whatever religion, and you'll feel a certain sense of holiness there or not. Because if there's money laundering and changing going on, and various problems with the priest class, and worldly people are just wandering in for favors, whatever this religion with a small r, this religious shopkeeping, Vivekananda coined the phrase, this religious shopkeeping is going on, there the divine has vacated the premises. Elvis has left the building, right? So basically the presence is not there anymore. So, but wherever the worship is going on daily, and there's great heart in it, and a knower of ritual, and a speaker of sacred mantras and words, there the divine presence is tended, and there it tends to stay. And that's why people go there and get solace and relief from the fires of worldly life that's going on back home or in society. They can extricate themselves from that and put themselves in a holy atmosphere. So that's why Holy Mother said, people have been gaining salvation through ritual for thousands of years, and you want to take it away from them? These people would come to her, and they know she represents non-duality, and they know Sri Ramakrishna had non-dual samadhi, and they know Swami Vivekananda was the teacher of non-duality in this age. He was the great teacher, the Jagat Guru of non-duality. You'd have to look back to Gaudapada and Shankara to find another like him in that vein. So they would come and say, well, this is non-duality manifest here, right? Yes, but don't take rituals away from people. They're not able to understand non-duality yet. We have to graduate them by stages so they can become one with the Father or one with the Mother. I mean, even Jesus didn't say I'm one with the Father till very late. And let's see, what was it, 30, he lived only to 30-some years, I heard the other day. I hadn't known that. 33 years or something was when he passed. So he was like Shankara and Vivekananda, lived a very, very short time. But Also there too, in the synagogues, decrying the bad behavior, but not the worship. See, people needed this worship. So, not that I'm necessarily digressing, but we're talking about God with form here and God with formless form. Formless form is Divine Mother. This is Shakti. And be hard put to see her in form. You can see images of her created by artists, and there are hundreds of them now on the internet, beautiful ones that their creative geniuses are putting together with their tools, and very beautiful images of her, as along with the gods and goddesses and deities and so forth. And deity yoga is very important for people in the West. I mean, they weren't raised in non-duality. Now they've got a sort of failed dualistic or fundamentalist religion that's been shoved down their throats, and they're not buying that. So now they're caught between a rock and a hard place. So where are they going to go? They're going to have some deification. Tantric deification needs to come to the West. Non-duality is coming. You see, and it's come in the form of Vivekananda, but it'll take a while. He even said that it'll take a while for these different schools of non-duality to die away, to show what the real one is going to be. There will be one school that will surmount the rest when these competing factions around their understanding of non-duality or Advaita Vedanta die away, and you'll see what non-duality will settle here, you see. But in the meantime, we have this tantric deification that's very important, and that's going to have to be based on what we're talking about here. Objects that came from words, that came from thoughts. That's about as simple as I can put it. And Holy Mother used to say that in the 1800s, and into the early 1900s. She said, objects are just your thoughts made manifest. I mean, she couldn't have put it any clearer. Sometimes they translate that as objects are thought concretized. Because the Western intelligentsia, with all their smarts, are not making that connection. Nature, man, intelligence, consciousness, they all stand sundered. You don't bring those together, right? But, and philosophy and religion are also sundered from one another. In India, they never were. They proved each other. They worked together to prove each other. So then, since that's the case, then what we need to do is realize that these objects, if we're starting here, objectified consciousness, that we need to move into their next origin. And that would be words. And then inside of words we'll find intelligence and thoughts. So we marched out that way, now we have to march in that way. So this is evolution. Now there's an involution that has to happen, and you should probably get to it before your body drops. Do this involution every day, in whatever way your particular tradition is teaching it. Probably the ones that are teaching it are in China, in Japan, in Tibet, and in India. These are the ones that are teaching about involution. And there really is no such thing as Western religion, but West has borrowed its religion from the East, Middle East, Far East, Near East. So in that case then, if you go to a westernized religion, the closest thing to involution you're going to find is going to heaven. And that is suspect. You see. I mean, heaven itself is suspect unless you capitalize the word, you see. If it's the heaven that is the kingdom of heaven of God, that's going to be more discernible and acceptable to the non-dualist than a heaven of your ancestors, or a heaven where God is a person. God is a great light. See, in India, it's a great light. It's Brahman. It's the light of awareness. So when you take your precipitous ascent to the highest awareness, you'll leave off of all forms, including the forms of heaven. And you'll find yourself right back in your own nest, like Basundi the crow, you see. he insulted Ram. And he was a very clever crow. He could go to different worlds. So in order to escape Ram's wrath, he went to all these different worlds and hid. But Ram always found him. Finally, when Ram located him in this subtle world somewhere and grabbed him, and Vishundi thought, this is the end. See? And Ram took him to his mouth and swallowed him, and Vishundi found himself in his own nest in a tree back home. One of the beautiful stories of the Itihasa of India. So there's nowhere you can go that you will not find divine reality, and the going is all illusory. Coming and going is all mere nonsense. You're always there in your own Atman. Safe, sound, peaceful, balanced, stable, having all the experiences of your true self accessible to you. And back to the thought I brought up at the first half, is that you should be having those here in the body. If there's any vindication or validation for you being in a body, shame on you. You see, with your desires and all that, it's to have these experiences in the body, not these tepid, pallid, Tinseltown kind of experiences that the world gives you, that are fleeting, transitory, and sap your energy and leave you dead at the end of your life. These are the experiences you should be having in the body. And Sri Ramakrishna exemplifies that as much as anything in this lifetime he just lived amongst us. That's why I was saying earlier, you could take the picture of him, there were 3 or 4 of them. You could take some of the pictures of Holy Mother and say, I am looking upon the face of God and Goddess right now. The first time God was ever photographed, when they took those 3 pictures of Sri Ramakrishna, because photography was an infant science. The one Swami, direct disciple of Holy Mother, Swami Nityaswarupananda, pointed to a picture one day when I was sitting with him back in New York at SRV National, said, see that picture, Babaji? That's the first time God was ever photographed. And Walt Disney Studios, they hired them to take this picture and remove all the imperfections of the old photography out of it. So when you see now, they show up his face and his eyes are swimming in bliss. It's unbelievable to see that face. So you can look upon this face and say, this is the face of Samadhi. If non-duality ever made it to the world, here it is. I mean, this is as much meeting Mother Kali as understanding the words, is seeing the face. And so you know why my teacher said, I've seen her face, I've heard her voice. Isn't that sight and word? Now I long for her grace with my whole heart. See, and he gave his whole life to her, into his 90s, to Holy Mother. She gave him mantra diksha. He only met her a few times in his life. How could it be that you would meet a person for just once or twice or 3 times in your life, and you'd surrender your whole existence to that person? What kind of an effect would that person have had to have had on you, you see, in order for you to do that? Surrender your very life and body, you see. Well, monks are known to do this. It's not all that rare, but in the realm of householders, I would say it's not that, it's more rare, but it's more important to do that. And this is why she said, through ritual you'll get salvation. But beyond ritual, there's worship of Mother. You'll get liberation through that. Salvation and liberation are 2 different things in my tradition. Salvation is like, oh hum, you know. Heaven is sort of a, you know, boring concept to the Vedantas, you see. But liberation, now you're talking, you see. Realizing my true self to be ever free, never bound, is what you're talking about there. Because what's in the way of that, you see? Why are we always calling ourselves bound or thinking ourselves to be bound? Why aren't we walking around saying, free? Free this second too. Minute passes, I'm still free. You see? Where's the bondage? You see? Come delusion, come illusion. You know, try and delude me, I dare you. See, I'm free all the time. This lifetime, next lifetime, beyond lifetimes. It's ultimate freedom moksha, mukti, kaivalya, nirvana, samadhi, asampragata. You just go around India and pick the words out of the seers' minds and heads, because you have to. Those are the words we're talking about that exemplify freedom. Do you have one in English other than freedom and liberation? And if you say liberation, doesn't it mean you were once bound? Moksha, mukti mean the thing is at hand right now when you say those words. It's not like I was once bound and I got free. They don't think like that. See? This is the very nature of the soul, to be free. And even that, anyway, I don't want to second guess myself too many times here. Just to say that the import of words is paramount in these traditions. I wanted to show you in the time remaining how she gets veiled, so that when we meet her, we know how to do so and what it should look and feel like. And for here we go to another version of the gunas. And we've talked about tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas being darkness or inertia, and rajas being activity, often frenetic, restless activity, but amazing activity going on. And then sattva being balance, sort of the balance of happiness and joy, sort of quiet balance. Not quite satisfying sattva, but much better than hanging out in tamas and rajas. So when Shankara took up the teaching of the three gunas of India, which is peculiar and particular to India only, you'll never find this way of communicating why your mind goes from laziness to restlessness to balance and back many times a day. You'll never find the reason for that talked about in any other tradition, religion, or philosophy. It's peculiar to Indian philosophy, the three gunas, triguna. And not only that, they didn't just leave it at that. They said triguna tita. Atita means to transcend. So you must actually see these gunas operating in you and then transcend them. And it means you're going to have to go beyond happiness and balance too. Just living a happy, balanced life is not going to do it. Good luck with that if you can. And I'm not disencouraging you from doing that. That's yogic equipoise, but or maybe you should call it earthly equipoise or mental equipoise. But yogic equipoise takes a fire of yoga they call it, and that burns away all dross that would cause the mind to ever fall again into tamas, rajas, and sattva. That means that when you came out of a higher state of consciousness and you came upon sattva, you would say, boring. See, I remember what sattva was like. It doesn't satisfy me anymore. I don't want to be just balanced. See, there's this ananda, and there's this trembling, there's this new power, there's these higher levels of consciousness that are mother's own. Territories of awareness. Manidvipa, jewel island of essence where she dwells. And it's a precipitous ascent to arrive there, but I'm going to take that journey up. You see, where's a better time than now? See, when I'm aware of her and I have a teacher talking about her, and I know what words mean, and that she has scriptures, and that a great soul has come within the last 150 years and brought her awareness of her to us by the thousands, by the millions. And in a short time, people are actually responding to this. See, it's one of those, even with the media, right, and websites and all that, people don't, it's happening so fast they don't know what's happening to them. And part of the problem of that is it's an admixture of things that are happening to them. It's not just mother happening to them. She's still hidden. But this wash of things that actually comes from Shakti power is happening to them, but they're not identifying the essence in it. This goes hands in hand with the teaching that you should not be the one who's searching for experiences. You should come to know yourself as the experiencer. You're not the dance or the play, you're the dancer and the playwright, you see. So if you keep having many experiences all the time, even if they're spiritual, you haven't reached her yet. She can hand out experiences to everyone on all levels of existence, you see, even prior to her visitation to you at the 3 lower chakras. She's handing out experiences to everyone to keep them happy. Holy Mother used to say that. They all come, they come to me and they ask me for things. Oh, you must be the Divine Mother of the universe. Won't you give me this? Won't you give me that? So I pray to God, maybe, pray to Sri Ramakrishna, maybe give them something. They come back later and say, oh, guess what? What just happened to us? We got this thing. We're so happy. And what's her conclusion? But where's her devotion? She ended up that little tirade of hers, you see, about Hindu society in the 1800s. This wasn't even in America. So what did she say about them? They ask God for all these things, they get them, but where's their devotion? See? They don't have any love and devotion for God, they just want things. And that's why my teacher used to say, oh, you here in the West, you're always thanking God and so forth, and you're always worshiping God. But actually that's not God you're worshiping at all, that's your own ego. We're all worshiping our own ego. So, it's one of the problems here is that if your ego's in charge and you're praying to God that is really the ego, then the ego is answering your prayers. And this is why you're having so much pain and suffering. The ego's in charge. It's not a very good taskmaster, you see. Not a very good boss. So you have to usurp the ego and put Mother and then pray to her and watch things change, you see. Then see how life begins to go forth. But so you're going to have to sacrifice this small self and what it wants and make damn sure that you know what divine reality is, with no compromises, no second guessing and no masqueraders. See? So how to do that? In the time remaining, I want to talk to you about these 3 gunas, but when Shankara came across the 3 gunas, he hooked them up so nicely to these 3 kinds of Shakti. They're called Avarani, Vikshepa, and Prakasha. Now, we very seldom hear about Prakasha Shakti. It's funny that everything that might tend to unveil Mother gets hidden. As if she wants it that way, it seems sometimes. She says, don't you want your children to know you? It's just sort of like some mother who gives birth to children and then, disappears. Well, raise yourselves. In fact, the women that were around Holy Mother in her lifetime, she'd look at them and she'd go, these women are horrible. They gossip all the time. They're backbiting with one another. She was really critical of the women around her, in her own family and in the people that came near her. And, she didn't say this out loud. She wasn't a fault finder herself. Her teachings actually go against fault finding. But she couldn't help but notice these women. She would tell them, look, it's sundown. It's time to go meditate. Here you are gossiping. She'd come in upon them when they should be thinking of God, and they're gossiping. Well, she was just saying of a cross-section of the Kali Yuga and what was to come, you see, in the West, that we don't even think of God by accident now. I heard a story just today, somebody who went to my ashram, his son took a room there and is studying, and his father saw his son commit to spiritual life and went home and canceled his subscription to the TV. You see? Canceled it. No more TV, no more live streaming movies, just based on what his son was doing, because there was no TV at the ashram. And his son was going there to study the scriptures and meditate and serve God and human beings. That's his work. Going to work every day is serving God and human beings. It's not making money for the ego. See. So when his father saw this, I think I'll go home and make a change in my life. You see. So this is, of course, what is wanted. You have to take some very possibly extreme or radical steps with your ego to get it out of the way so that God can finally come through. So coming through here is Prakasha Shakti. She's the revelatory power. And we're missing her sorely. We're missing her sorely here in the West. If we invoke her at any of these levels, we may still be missing her. We have to look for the revealing power because, as I said, she's granting boons of all kinds to all kinds of people. If somebody wants to dominate over another nation, some evil dictator, she'll grant him the boon to do that. She's at the hub of everything as Shakti. You see, it's not her intention that people get destroyed by other people in wars, but these are beings who are dreaming the dream of war and violence, you see. They have desires for that, and they think they're on the right side. So she's impartial, like God is in any war. Actually, God, Brahman, is beyond wars and peace. But Mother has her eye in that, you know. Not like having a hand or a finger in the pot. She has her eye watching it all. So in that case then, that everything is getting granted by Shakti power. And some people are using it for evil means and some people are using it for better means. That's really the only justification we would make here. Here, take the Shakti power and do something with it, you know, she's saying. And I'll be watching you. See? And the god of karma will be watching you too. See? I don't happen to pass out dictates, but my friend here, the god of karma, will be around. And I notice you don't have a conscience, so we'll let karma take over, you see. If you have a conscience, then maybe you have more of a chance at meeting me, you see. In the meantime, we'll let karma do its work. So, anyway, this is a little brief expose on what these two kinds of Shakti are, and how inexplicable and strange it is to think of Divine Mother as covering power, you see. So here you see the three Mahashaktis. Avarana Shakti is the power of obscuration. Sri Ramakrishna said, like scum over a lake, green scum. Brush it away, you see yourself, and the scum comes dancing back. That was his analogy for Avarana Shakti. It's not like it's conscious, and it's trying to get your goat. It's the nature of it to cover, that's all. So you would call it name, form, time, space, and causality. That's covering power. Because your true nature is formless, but here you are, covered it with body, prana, mind, intellect, and ego. Shame on you. See? Your true nature is formless essence. Like primordial substance that permeates everything we just sang, right? Yet you have covered it over. You've taken her Avarana Shakti power and you've covered it over with layers. And now you're sitting under these layers as if you're safe and sound and happy. But this is tamas. You can't be happy and safe and sound in tamas. That's darkness. That's delusion. How long can you stay happy? It's like Sri Ramakrishna said, you can live in a network of caves. You see, if you're a yogi, and you know there's a bear living in one of them. You know, there's like hundreds of networks of caves back there, so you probably never meet the bear. But there's always a chance. And so it niggles in your mind, right? Like, hear some noise. I wonder if that's that bear. You see, interrupts your meditation, right? So you can't be happy in the cave, the network of caves called tamas, Avarana Shakti. You have to come out of that darkness and into the sunlight. A little bit more light then permeates through the power of distortion. I say that with tongue-in-cheek because the power of distortion sometimes is worse than the power of obscuration. We call this half-truth, and we call this falsity. Now, most souls can see what is false, the difference between good and bad, say. But a lot of people cannot see what is mixed. Mixed karma is the worst karma. because you're mistaking what is good for what is bad, and what is bad is what is good. One of the early teachers of this way of style of teaching was Lord Kapila of Samkhya Yoga system. He used to call it things like good acts of stupefaction and bad acts of stupefaction. So there are people who are doing bad acts and they don't really know they're bad acts. And there are people who are actually doing good acts of stupefaction, which are having bad results, but they don't know they're turning negative. And this is kind of the realm of mixed karma. See? So that's half light, half darkness, you might say. It's rajas. It's always changing places, and so you never can count on it. Like the camellia in the woods, it's always changing colors, so people argue about it all the time. Very hard to distinguish. So, and then you have Prakasha Shakti, the power of revelation, and the teachings you find in the scriptures are these two. There's a covering power, there's a distorting power, but very few times you'll hear it mentioned that there's a revelatory power that you can get a hold of and place into your life and strip these coverings away. See the truth face to face. Like Mahatma Gandhi said about Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. When we see Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, we actually see God face to face. It's a quote from him. So when you have a chance to see Divine Mother face to face, you have used effectively her Prakasha Shakti to unveil everything, all the work that Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti are continually doing in your life and in the lives of collective humanity, collective consciousness. Everything that's going on that's keeping Mother veiled and is keeping the truth from people. And it's just adding to and exacerbating this convoluted karma that people are suffering, to where eventually they don't even think of God even by accident. Not that they're even striving or trying. They've fallen so much under the gun of the veiling power that they don't believe anything else exists but that. Sri Ramakrishna said it's like the fish, 5 kinds of fish, right? The fisherman throws his net. Well, one of the fish grabs the net in its mouth and sinks itself into the mud and thinks it's safe. You see? He'll get dragged out by the fisherman's net, you see, out of his this delusion of being safe in the mud of Maya, with the net of Avarana Shakti in his mouth thinking he's safe. So many beings are like that. So those who want to rise, raise their consciousness, if you want to use that adage, are going to have to avail themselves of Prakasha Shakti. And the details of this I think would be good to start off with next Sunday. That is a second later, which is next Sunday. 1 second will pass, we'll stand up, we'll sit back down. Here we are, talking with each other about Prakasha Shakti, and no time will have passed, because Mother Kali is there in all of time. In fact, Kala means time. Nama, Rupa, Desha, Kala, and Nimitta. You see, those are the 5 aspects of Maya. So she has named herself Kali. She is time itself and sees through the 3 phases of time. AUM, remember, one of those was past, present, and future. So we're seeing that she's availed of a very powerful name, a precious name to contemplate. So that's kind of the final word for this class, is to take what has been taught today, dharmically speaking, and to contemplate it, and spend time in it. I probably have students in the mainland where I'm gone for a couple months, and I go back and visit their homes. I have to dust off their notes for them. See, they took notes at class, and then they laid it somewhere, and 2 months of dust has accumulated since I left. You see, did you think about this at all? Or was I just wasting my breath? See, this breath has been purified by pranayama. See, that's what she said, right? Get yourself into pranayama first and practice it, you see, and then have your posture and your breath working, and then put your mind in peace and contemplate these teachings. That is, peace or sattva is not going to be enough. It'll pass. Remember now, cycles of darkness, cycles of activity, and cycles of balance happen every 24 hours. You could even see them change inside of an hour if you study your consciousness like an Eskimo would study snow conditions. But remember, these cycles also have 12-year-long versions and several month-long versions. So you'll find yourself in a period of restlessness for a couple months. You'll never feel yourself. So what's wrong with me? I'm not peaceful like I used to be. See, and you have a sense of dis-ease. See, not disease. The word for that is dis-ease. You're not at ease. So you'll find yourself wondering why you're not back to your peaceful place again. And that's an overall general cycle of rajas that's on your mind right now. And the same thing will happen for sattva. You can say, boy, months I've just felt great. Can't remember being tired or restless at all. I'm great, you know. I've had people come to me and say, everything's fine. I said, well, that'll pass. Just watch. Because you have a body-mind mechanism right now. Your consciousness is assigned to the body-mind mechanism. Let's try and reassign it by contemplating these teachings of the Divine Mother of the Universe and come to meet Mother Kali face to face. So here, let's end with a chant. Om Tachnayo, Om Tachnayo, Ravrini Mahe, Gatung Yagyaya, Gatung Yenupataye, Daivi Swastarastu Naha, Svastir Manusebhyaha, Urdhvab Jigatu Bhesajam, Samno Astu Dvipade Samchatushpate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we make a sincere and humble offering of the small self into the great self. May we always delight in this offering. May we always revere the Lord and Mother of all sacrifices. May divine blessings be upon us. May peace come into the entire human race. May healing, well-being, and prosperity also then abide among us. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari